Hey everybody, it's Stippling Vaughn, and I'm here working at my local dive bar, as you can see. And you can also tell from the background music, and you'll soon start hearing voices. This piece here that I'm working on, remember I did this piece specifically for when I'm doing these videos because of scat investigators being worked on in areas and on pages that have reveals I don't want you guys to know about yet. So, but I'm not going to be working on this one tomorrow. Like, this is the last day I'll be working on this one for a little while because I got a commission. To do this dog. So I'm working on the pencils for this right now. And so I'm hoping to have the pencils done today. So once I have the pencils done today, I'll be inking it. So starting tomorrow or New Year's Day, you'll be seeing me working on this. So we're going to be working on this one today for the last time for a little while. So today's topic I want to talk to you about is the new G.I. Joe Transformers Shared Universe comic book. Issue 1 of Duke came out this week, and I'll be honest with you guys, I bought it because it's G.I. Joe. Okay, full disclaimer before I start. Okay, I took a look at the creative team for this book. Okay, the writer is Joshua Williamson. I took a look in Mike's Amazing Comics, and I looked and I saw what his body of work is, and he's been around for a while. But I looked at him I'm like, okay, I think I have one or two of these books that he's worked on, but nothing that he's worked on is anything that I've been like, oh wow, look at this. This is so good. This is such a good story. No, I mean, really no. I mean, nothing he's done has really impressed me. And same thing goes with the artwork. The artist is Tom Riley. Absolutely not a fan of the artwork. I just don't care for it at all. For me, with the artwork, it's lazy, incomplete. It's below standard for me. Okay. If this would have been a Spider-Man book, or a Captain Marvel book, or Captain America, Superman, I never would have picked the book up. The only reason why I picked it up is because it is G.I. Joe. I understand why Hasbro wants to do a shared universe with Transformers and G.I. Joe, okay? And I'm sure that regardless of whatever the creatives at Skybound are saying, I'm sure that Hasbro has their hand in the direction for this book, okay? They've made it clear that with the latest Transformers movie that they want a shared universe with G.I. Joe and Transformers. And they did it back in the day. I don't think they did a good job with it. I do remember the G.I. Joe Transformers miniseries. The artwork was by Herb Trimpe. I'm pretty sure Larry Hama probably did the story. I wasn't impressed with it back then. I'm still not impressed with it. But like I said, I bought it because it's G.I. Joe. So it's, again, the only reason why I'm buying it is because G.I. Joe. Otherwise I never would have bought this book. So that being said, let me continue on this, okay? I got the book, I read it, I was kind of like, okay. I was going through, I'm like, okay, you gotta take all this with a grain of salt. This is not Larry Hama's G.I. Joe universe. It's a completely different universe. And I really wasn't getting into it. Artwork did not help. Until we got to the page where Duke has infiltrated Mars headquarters, or Mars manufacturing facility. And he gets attacked by the security staff member there, and the security staff member is Mercer. This is key. Okay, Mercer was an action figure created by G.I. Joe for Sergeant Slaughter's elite fighting team within G.I. Joe, and Mercer was an ex-Viper who defected from Cobra to G.I. Joe, and he was under the orders of Sergeant Slaughter. Now, if you remember the G.I. Joe movie, he was in that movie under Sergeant Slaughter. As far as I ever knew, Larry Hama never used Mercer in the comic book. Okay? And this is key, because when I saw that, I was like, wait a second. Larry Hama never used this character. And here's the thing, is that with this whole shared universe, I understand that they're going to want to have all the best and most popular G.I. Joe characters for this shared universe. Okay, I understand that. Okay, they need to have us. They need to have a hit. They need to be able to have sales. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Okay, I'm looking at it from the perspective of it's a very tight. It's a razor wire is what you're walking on. Okay, Larry Hama has his DNA is in every single one of those Joe characters, because he's the only writer for G.I. Joe for so long. I mean, it's one of those where it's like when Larry Hama does something with Snake Eyes or Stalker, it makes sense because he's been writing that character for so long. It's almost like he's writing an autobiography about one of his brothers. That's how invested he is with the history of these characters. So when you introduce these characters into this new universe, if you don't adhere directly to how Larry Hama envisioned these characters, you really are having the potential to lose your audience. And if you lose your audience there, you could lose it in Larry Hama's universe. And more importantly, what happens after Larry Hama retires from doing G.I. Joe and you get a new writer in there? You might lose them. So it's very important that you adhere to exactly how Larry Hama has depicted these characters, and having them in this Transformers universe. I can see the possibility of losing the fans if you don't adhere to how these characters are. Okay? But if you look at Larry Hama's run, okay? If you look at his run of G.I. Joe, I want to say in the not 80s as in 1980s. I mean, as in issue 80, issue 81. Okay, they were releasing toys, but because they had so many characters released, Larry stopped introducing all of them in the comic book. The perfect example is Toll Booth. Toll Booth was the character that came with the bridge laying toy. It was like a little tank, but they laid a bridge across the river, or have this little bridge thing like and he was in the vehicle. Okay, he had a hard hat, a construction hard hat, and he had a sledgehammer. Instead of having a gun, he came with a sledgehammer. And if you look at that, he only shows up in one panel, and that was in the story arc when Zartan is infiltrating the G.I. Joe headquarters, has infiltrated the G.I. Joe headquarters. Okay? And it's the only time you see Toll Booth, to my knowledge. Okay? And after that, there was other issues. There was like the issue that Todd McFarlane did. He had, I think it was like Quick Draw. He had Falcon, Chuckles. He introduced like 4 different GI Joes, but I think like the I don't know, the guy that had the missiles. He had a big bodysuit and he had the missiles. I think it was called a Quick Draw because the missiles came off his hips or something like that. As far as I know, he only showed up in that issue. Now, Chuckles and Falcon, they showed up in later issues, but really overall, you take a look, there were so many characters, Larry was not using them in every single. Another example is the issue that Tom Palmer drew and illustrated, and it had the black guy with the called fastball or hardball or something like that. Only time I know of him ever showing up in a G.I. Joe comic book was that issue. And they did that issue just so they could introduce those characters. I think the Armadillo, the one character called Armadillo who drove the Mauler. If I'm right about the vehicle, I can't remember. But the whole point of that issue was to introduce these characters for selling the toys, and they never showed up again. Okay? Larry's DNA is not in those characters. So, in doing the shared universe of G.I. Joe and Transformers, I understand you're going to have Stalker, you're going to have Snake Eyes, you're going to have Lady J, but you got to have them in there. Don't use them to get the readers in there, but introduce these G.I. Joe characters that never got the spotlight in the regular Larry Hama book and give them their own identities. Think of it this way. Joshua has the opportunity to lay his mark on some of these completely unused G.I. Joe characters. You know that with this G.I. Joe Transformers universe, they're going to use this as a means to update the uniforms of some of these Joes. It's not practical to have Snake Eyes running around with a Uzi. Uzis just aren't really used anymore. Just as it's not practical to have Grunt running around with an M16 rifle. They just don't. They're not. The U.S. military isn't using these this armament anymore. So you wouldn't have a reason for them to be in. You wouldn't necessarily have a reason for them to have them in the comic books. So it gives you the ability to update the armament of these characters. Why not go that step further? And Joshua has, and I'm going to be looking carefully to, through hashtags and whatnot, to hopefully get Joshua's eyes onto this video so he hears and is able to see my opinion of this. Because I think about, again, he has the opportunity to take some of these unknown characters and make them his. And that's important for 2 reasons. A, he's getting to put his DNA into those characters. Think about it this way. He talks about in the back of the book, he's talking about how he loved playing with G.I. Joes as a kid. And he always loved watching the Saturday morning cartoon and being a military brat. So he knows how he remembers, like all of us, we had our favorite Joes, but we all also remember coming home, like going to the toy store and either using our money to buy a new G.I. Joe action figure or our parents buying one, and literally as soon as you get out of the toy store, probably even before you got in the car, you were tearing open that packaging to play with this new figure. And as soon as you got home, that was the main Joe that you were playing with, or that was the main Cobra figure that you were playing with for the rest of the month or maybe the next few months. Remember, the way they used to release toys back then was they would have a release, but it was almost one of those where it's like you go to the toy store and they had like 3 or 4 figures. And then a few months later they have another, so they got you buying figures throughout the year, even though they're released in an annual wave. So I do look at where he has the ability. So if you treat these like, let's use the example of, okay, I went through and I was looking at all the different waves of figures. Okay, we'll use Short Fuse. Short Fuse. Everybody knows Short Fuse because he was a Wave 1 figure. Okay, he was like 1985, I think is when he came out. Maybe in 86. So it was 85 or 86 was in short. He was the first wave. But in the comic book and in the cartoon, they never really ever utilized him. They never gave him an identity. Okay? Josh has the ability to be like, okay, look, Larry Hama, okay, I can't do anything new with Snake Eyes or Scarlet or Stalker or Tommy, Storm Shadow, because Larry's DNA is all over them. Same thing goes with like Roadblock, because Roadblock has his own identity from being so popular in the cartoon. Same thing with, let's say, like Gung Ho. Okay, but never did Larry, the cartoon, ever do anything with Short Fuse. This gives Joshua the ability to update Short Fuse, not just for him to create his own identity of the character, but it's also helping Hasbro maintaining the rights of the toy, of the name of the toy and the character itself. So it's beneficial to Hasbro. It'd be beneficial for Josh to take those unknown, unused characters and make them his own. So he's basically like leaving his mark on those characters, which you think of this again, in G.I. Joe, Larry's left his mark on these characters. He's become eternal for the fans because of this. This gives Joshua his own opportunity for immortality, in the sense that he's going to create the identity or personality of Short Fuse, not just for himself, but for the fandom and for Hasbro, which, if he does a good job with Short Fuse, it makes Short Fuse a much more marketing IP for Hasbro. And remember, the whole reason for this is to maintain the profitability of these IPs. So, I mean, I would really, what I would love to see, I know this is, bear with me, I know 90% of what I'm saying, they're not going to listen to. But I really do believe that if you really want to get some fan interest into this book, is don't give us this is an alternate version of Snake Eyes. This is an alternate version of Stalker in the Energon universe. Okay? Use these unknown characters, these forgotten, unused IPs to generate fan interest and to create value to the IP so it maintains profitability. And you think about it. Okay, Stalker, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, they have borderline infinite profitability for Hasbro. So why regurgitate those? I mean, again, what's the biggest criticism been of 2023 when it comes to the movies? We never really got anything new. We got regurgitations of the same old thing. We got reboots upon reboots. What were the biggest movies of this year? Other than Godzilla Minus One, which you could say is a continuation of a franchise, it was Barbie and Oppenheimer. Two brand new IPs. So if you're doing this shared universe of G.I. Joe and of Transformers, invest some time. Yes, I know Robert Kirkman and Hasbro are probably providing marching orders or guidance on how the book is to be done, and they're putting a lot of time into it. But again, the whole point is not to just keep the IP interest alive, but make the IP profitable. So Larry has left his DNA on Spirit Iron Knife, okay? How he acts, how he handles himself, the whole persona about it has been established by how Larry did it, okay? But Larry's really never done anything with Airborne. Airborne is also another American Indian character. He's Native American. He's never really been used. I actually looked this up. He was in one episode of the G.I. Joe cartoon, and he's never been given the spotlight. Maybe once or twice he's been given the spotlight in the comic book by Larry, but he's really never been given that full treatment, really been fleshed out. So by having Airborne as a more prominent figure in the G.I. Joe Transformer universe, you have an American Indian character that you can put and mold with his own belief system that's not identical to Spirit Iron Knife. Spirit. So I do see, again, so now you have Larry Hama's Spirit, which is a profitable IP. Now you have Airborne as a new profitable IP. Another thing also that I really think that where IDW always dropped the ball when they had the licensing for G.I. Joe was when they would start to come out with a classified series. Did you ever see that figure in the classified series showing up in the comic book? The answer is no. And that is where also with this is if they're like I know like just this last year they did a classified scrap iron, okay? Find out from Hasbro, what are you releasing this year? Because we'll make damn sure when the month prior to, or a month or two prior to it being released in stores, we'll make damn sure that character is in the book, whether it be Larry Hama's book or in the G.I. Joe Transformers universe. I think that's another thing where IDW so severely mismanaged the IP, and I don't want Skybound to have it mismanaged. I want Skybound to be successful. Remember, the whole reason why we had a G.I. Joe comic book in the 80s was to sell the G.I. Joe toy, because they made more money off the toy than the comic book. So again, you got this Duke comic book. You're going to have a Cobra Commander comic book. Always be aware, always be in communication with Hasbro as to what's coming out that year. If they're coming out with a Lifeline action figure, you make damn sure that Lifeline is in the Larry Hama version, Larry Hama G.I. Joe, or make sure you have him in the Energon universe. But I'm getting back to what this whole thing is that I would really like to see, and I know it's not going to happen, but what I would like to see is we can go to the comic book store every single month and we can see the ongoing adventures of Scarlet and Snake Eyes and Stalker. We don't need to see it again. And what could be, again, this is your razor wire, if he mistreats it or if he portrays a character that doesn't sit well with fans, you lost them. So why, if we're already getting our fix with Stalker and Snake Eyes and Scarlet with Larry Hama's G.I. Joe, Why not get Airborne, Short Fuse, Grand Slam, Armadillo, Ambush, Backblast? Get them over to the Energon universe so we can you'll be getting G.I. Joe fans, but more importantly, you'll be getting G.I. Joe fans who are like, oh my gosh, I remember when that figure came out. That was never done. Nobody ever did anything with him. It helps you get excitement for the book, and it gets the fans excited. And then you can, I would hope, get new fans and get old fans back. So that's my thing with this whole doing the Duke comic and the Cobra and doing this whole Transformers G.I. Joe shared universe. We know from because they're already going to do it because they had it as a teaser in the end of the Transformers movie. I really do. I like the idea, and plus also you can take these characters that Larry never did anything with. Okay, again, Larry never did anything with Toll Booth. Okay, he never did anything with Backblast, whoever this character is. I don't ever remember seeing him in the comic book, whether it be, and when I say that, I don't remember it in the Marvel comic book, and I don't remember it in the IDW comic book. So I look at it as where it's like, yeah, this is the opportunity to bring, and you can, because they haven't been around for so long, you can completely redesign them. And maybe you need the G.I. Joe characters to have more tech weapons. Maybe you're going to have it where they all have like some form of like portable railgun. Okay? You can do that with these IPs that were never fully investigated or never fully utilized. So you can have them for like in the comic books. They have a whole, almost treat it like a brand new comic book with brand new characters. Think about it. Think about how we all were so excited each month of the G.I. Joe comic book when you'd open it up, and now we've got Tripwire in the galley dropping dishes all over the place, and we've got Mutt and Junkyard charging in, and we're being introduced to him. And then the following issue, we're being introduced to this character, this new G.I. Joe character. Now we're out in the Gulf of Mexico, and we've got the tactical platform, and we're now being introduced to Shipwrecked. You can do that. You can probably have about 20, 25 G.I. Joes that Larry never fully utilized, that you can start introducing issue after issue after issue for the fans to be like, oh wow. I mean, you don't, and just when they're like, and because remember, when each one of these characters was introduced, we didn't need to have a backstory. It was just it was just basically, it was like Duke or Hawk on, meet the new Joe, such and such. And they're like, hey buddy, how you doing? Okay, let's go. You need to go off on the mission, or this is the new mission. This is the new Joe that has to go with you because this is part of his expertise. You don't need to just introduce them. And then through introducing them in the course of the mission, you learn about that character. So that's my take on it. I really do like this idea. You can tell from the tones that I'm using, I'm not using a standard monotone. I'm in it. My voice is changing as I'm talking to you. That shows how much, like I said to you guys, and I said right off the beginning of this video, not a fan of the artwork. Story was okay. I'll be honest, the story was okay. He gave us those throwbacks of Burkhart. And I was kind of disappointed when they showed when Burkhart was dead by the end of the issue. He gave us the designs, showing us the mass effect device, the device from the first G.I. Joe cartoon. Gave us those Easter eggs, those throwback Easter eggs. But moving forward, I'm hoping we get more. But I hope we get more than just, oh, Stalker's in this universe too. Oh, there's rock and roll. Oh, there's Clutch. Oh, there's rock and roll. Wait a second. Larry's doing the same damn story, or Larry's using the same damn characters in his story. I don't know about you guys. You know what? Tell me in the comments. Okay, tell me in the comments. Wouldn't it be cooler and more profitable for Hasbro to invest in making other IPs within G.I. Joe universe and the Transformers universe valuable, instead of just giving this the same old thing? Like I said, the two biggest movies this year weren't Star Wars, weren't Marvel, weren't like an established IP. They were all new. Barbie, new IP. Oppenheimer, new movie. Okay, I do believe if you want to do G.I. Joe, do G.I. Joe. But we already got a G.I. Joe. We got Larry Hama's G.I. Joe. Give us, if we're going to have a new G.I. Joe, give us a new G.I. Joe with new characters to enjoy. Or at least don't make Scarlet, Stalker, and Snake Eyes your main G.I. Joe characters, along with Duke. And that's another thing also, is if you're using Duke and if you're going to have him prominent in the Energon universe, then make Duke stepped back in Larry Hama's universe. Make Hawk and Flint your established leaders. That's how I feel. I might be completely off my rocker. You know what? I won't know I don't know if you agree or disagree unless you give me a comment. So please, give me a comment if you like what I'm saying. If you don't like what I'm saying, I appreciate your time and watching. And always remember, life is stressful. Just take it all one dot at a time.